Hi, this is Danny with Skin Harmonics, and I've recently launched a moisturizer called Truce. And since then, I've been getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, a lot of emails from everyone wanting to know, like, how is this different than from my other moisturizers and how does it compare and all that? Because I'm realizing now that I have 4 moisturizers and they're each very special, but they all kind of do the same thing. And before we dig into the differences between these two, well, these 4 moisturizers that I have, but this most recent one, Truce, is I want to just kind of remind you guys some things about a moisturizer. So a moisturizer for our skin has one job, and that's to trap water in our skin. And this is supremely, supremely important because water is the first thing that needs to happen for our skin in order for it to be okay. And in order for it to, I guess, anything and all good things come from skin that's hydrated. Like there's this cascade of good events that happens when our skin has this fundamental need taken care of, which is hydration. And so a moisturizer has this one job, and it's the same job of our sebaceous glands. And that's why they both involve oil, but that they both are supposed to trap water in our skin. So in saying that, as being like the primary thing about a good moisturizer is, number one, it has to be effective. It has to have enough lipids in it that is an oil that is literally going to create a barrier and prevent water from evaporating. And it's also something that I want to point out that when it comes to our health and when it comes to our skin, we can be taking supplements, we can be using skincare products, and that's all fine and good. But the bottom line is what is usable for our bodies and what is usable for our skin. So often we're taking so many supplements and we're bombarding our system with so many things that can't even be absorbed and metabolized and put to good use. So many things that we're taking in are actually a burden for our skin and for our body. So a moisturizer is the perfect example of this. It seems to be this old way of making moisturizers is that you just cram as much impressive things into this moisturizer as possible, as if that really had anything to do with how usable and how absorbable it is. So that's something that is just really important to keep in our brains when we think about a moisturizer and what kind of moisturizer we want to buy. And so that's why you'll see that my ingredient list on all my moisturizers is very short. It's very simple. And it focuses on putting a layer of oil so that it actually can trap water in our skin. Now, something else, because I started blending aromatherapy oils, like, gosh, in my late teens and early 20s, and been making facial oils and aromatherapy products like for most of my life. And what I discovered years ago is that oils like avocado oil, jojoba oil, apricot kernel oil, olive oil, though those are really good cold pressed oils to be putting on our skin that can trap water in our skin, what I realized at some point is that they're very thin. They're actually not that effective with creating a really solid barrier so that water can't evaporate. And that's when I started experimenting much more with emulsions, with cocoa and shea butter, things that were way denser than just a cold pressed oil. Because what a moisturizer can do is trap existing water in our skin. And that's excellent. But that's why it's so important that it's paired with a hydrophilic substance, a hydrating serum, so that we can actually insert water and then trap it. Like that's when it's like the biggest, most optimizing move of proper barrier restoration and in giving that optimal hydration possible is when we're inserting a hydrating serum and then we're trapping it in. So these are all things that I'm mentioning because these are things that are so often like disregarded and not taken into account when making a moisturizer. is number one, it has to be effective, which means it needs to be dense enough. Number two, it can't be filled with too many things that aren't going to be absorbed and metabolized all the way. Oil molecules are so large that they're never going to penetrate deeply into the skin, and we don't need them or want them to. That's what the serum is for. And that's why I'm so into my dermal nutrients that have liposomal delivery, because that's something that really can get into our skin and make a difference. But when it comes to a moisturizer, we want to keep it simple. We want to keep all of the burdensome ingredients away. We don't want it to irritate our skin, and we want it to do its one job like really, really well, which is create barrier restoration. Trap water in our skin, which there's a long list of all of the good things that happens when we do that, that I'm not going to mention now because I'm trying to keep this video short, on the short side. In saying that, my first moisturizer is Lamina, and it is a medical moisturizer. It's very, very, very dense. It's lightly scented. It's made with rose water, but it's densified shea and cocoa butter with natural emulsifiers. And something that's very unusual about Lamina is that you have to liquefy it before you use it. It's like a really wacky product, but it's brilliant because it works better than anything I've ever put my hands on or put my paws in a jar to scoop or find or try. I don't even know how it came to be, but I took something to the next level, hydration, when I invented Lamina. And so you have to actually scoop it out with a shell or a utensil, and you must liquefy it by rubbing your hands back and forth and making baby circles. But what happens is this Lamina, it completely liquefies. It turns into honey, the texture of honey, warm honey, and then you can apply it on top of a hydrating serum. And the benefits of Lamina are, number one, the cost. Number two, how effective it is. This is definitely the most effective moisturizer that I've made. It seals in water like nothing I've ever known before. And instead of leaving like a thick, goopy residue or being greasy, it's more like a thin, sticky residue. Very, very thin, very elegant. It's almost, it's very much like a makeup primer. And that was something else that I discovered over the many years that I was blending and using and making facial oils, is that number one, they didn't quite trap water in like you would think an oil would. And number two, they're so greasy feeling, like the shine is just kind of over the top. And so what I did with Lamina was in all of my moisturizers, but especially Lamina creates this incredible barrier that just traps all the water in our skin, and it does it without leaving a thick, goopy, texture on our skin. It's not thick and fluffy. It's very thin. So that is Lamina. And then my next moisturizer is Unity, which is a very dense shea and cocoa butter as well, but it's not quite as dense as Lamina. And it's more of a traditional whipped barrier restoration butter. Like it's thick, it's creamy, it's soft. It does not require liquefying, although you must spread it across your skin and warm it up to a degree because it's so dense. And this moisturizer, Unity, it does everything that Lamina does to a degree. It's not as dense of a barrier, but it's something you could use camping. It doesn't require warm hands. And it is thicker. So Unity users are going to experience more of that thickness on their skin, less than my Lamina users. And it's plain. Unity has no essential oils in it. Lamina doesn't either, except for that I'm using a lot of organic Bulgarian rose water in it. So it's mildly scented. There is a little bit, now that I'm remembering, there's a little bit of real essential oil in it, rose essential oil, but the rest of my moisturizers don't have essential oils in them. And Unity is very plain that way. It's going to smell like chocolate because the cocoa butter has that natural smell. And then my next moisturizer is Trinity, which is the same base that I used for Unity, everything that I just said for Unity. But then I just wanted to make something fun. Like I just wanted to make something really fun and good for our skin that wasn't filled with astringent essential oils and that was truly nourishing, but then not put in things that were going to be a burden for our skin. And so Trinity is rose water, the organic Bulgarian rose water, and the chocolate powder, cacao powder, fair trade organic, and then pearl powder, fresh water pearl powder. And there also is a little bit of zinc oxide for soothing and for just a tiny bit of SPF. And so Trinity is a moisturizer, a body butter, a face butter that is brown in color. Like it actually looks like chocolate. And it's just so decadent to use. And again, like it's not filled with all of these like really no positive effect ingredients that I know it in some ways like impress people when they get to see vitamin C and or all of these different things in a moisturizer. But again, it's not necessarily vitamin C, by the way, is much better put to use in a serum where it can actually be absorbed. Anything that sits topically on our skin, the way that a good moisturizer should be absolutely, utterly soothing and with no active ingredients, like no acids, no retinols, no vitamin C, because we're going to use our serums to penetrate exactly when and how we want to get that stuff in. But our moisturizers has to do with bringing tranquility and peace to our skin, really. And so now we're finally at Truce. And Truce is my last moisturizer. I think I'm done for a while, but I wanted to just give variety. And again, there's so much fast food junk when it comes to skincare. And this is like me making my version of, fun skincare that doesn't have to be a detriment to our skin, that doesn't just have to be a cheap thrill or cheap ingredients because we saw something at CVS or Walgreens and just wanted like a certain smell, So in all of my ingredients with all my moisturizers are organic and natural, which is something that you just don't find every day, of course. So Truce is the same base that Unity has, where it's the whipped shea and cocoa butter. It has that same fluffy base, but what Truce is about is green tea, which I have been loving and appreciating green tea so much over the last few years. And it has not just the scent, but the essence of green tea has everything to do with equilibrium, like just, that still point. And it has filled with antioxidants as well. So Truce is green tea, and it's also vanilla. I just love the way that vanilla smells. And when you use it in the right amounts, it's not astringent for our skin. And then a little bit of honey, which honey has incredible benefits for our skin. And so Truce is that blend of green tea, vanilla, and honey. So Unity and Trinity and Truce are all face and body butters. They double in either direction. Trinity and Truce have the zinc oxide in it just for the soothing factor and just a wee bit of SPF for our skin. Lamina, it's hard to turn that into a body moisturizer, but you can, and I have, and it's incredible. Your skin just has to be really warm. And it's actually really fantastic, but I know that it takes a little bit of extra work to get it to melt. And then Unity is very easy to use for face and body. But again, Unity, Trinity, and Truce are just thicker, they're fluffier. They're more your traditional body butter. So I hope that answers some questions that I've been getting about how they're different. And also on a practical note, I'll end with this because this is already way longer than I wanted it to be, is that you can use them all. You don't have to choose. this is again my way of bringing variety to you and to me, because Lamina and Unity are fantastic as you can switch back and forth. Always use Lamina first if you're using more than, if you're layering with some of the other butters on top. It's the densest, so it needs to be applied first. But Lamina and Unity are the ones that are just like holding down the fort barrier wise, and also just economically speaking, it's like our day-to-day go-to utility that just gets it done right, and it's super affordable. But of course, all of the organic extras that I put into Trinity and Truce just make them more expensive, but something that you could still use and still throw in. And like midday, sometimes after a hot yoga class, I'll put on Trinity or Truce just as like a get me through, you know. And that is really a good thing to do, because sometimes we can't do like our whole layering system midday or after we eat a lunch, but we can just like patch in with a little bit of Unity, Trinity, or Truce. Or, I mean, I was melting Lamina with my fingertips. It doesn't take a whole lot, especially in the summer, I know, to get that melted on. So it's just a way to find variety. And so I hope that helps everyone figure out like how they're gonna proceed with now knowing that I have yet another moisturizer. And what else? I think there's something else I wanted to say. Oh, my final thing is what I have done with all of these moisturizers, which makes me so freaking happy, is that I have made them so that there's a bulk refill and a smaller one that you use with the larger bulk size. So I have a system in place so that we're ending single-use containers, and we're approaching skincare in this way that we're totally acknowledging how messed up it is that we're using so many disposable containers and so many containers when it comes to skincare. Like, it's atrocious, really. And so Lamina, they all come in mommy and baby sizes, basically. Like Lamina and Unity come in 1 pound sizes. And then the smaller sizes are 2 ounces. And then when it comes to Trinity and Truce, the larger size is 4 ounces. And then you get a small one that's 1 ounce. And that little 1 ounce is a perfect to throw in your purse, your yoga bag, keep out on your counter. And something to also know about all of my moisturizers is that they don't have hardcore preservatives in it that are not natural. And so a lot of skincare products can be left out in the sun. They could not be used for years and it wouldn't matter. But because all of these moisturizers are 100% natural, I am using a natural preservative, a very good one. However, it does mean that the bulk sizes should be refrigerated, unless you think you're going to finish in container in less than 4 months. It should be refrigerated. So that's also something to understand about why I have this bulk system on top of just trying to cut down on plastic waste and glass jar waste and all of that. So I hope this finds you guys all happily and well. And it's been so good to see so many people coming in over the last few weeks and months now that things are kind of like stabilizing in our world. And I ship from both locations, both Summerlin, California, and of course, Boulder, Colorado. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay moist.